Welcome back to another OCC Q&A. Today's question, almost when I read it, sounded like this person thought in some way we did something wrong when we gave out one of our shoe boxes. In particular, the shoe box that I shared the dog toy story about. It almost sounds like she thought we didn't do our distribution correctly when we gave out that shoe box. So I'm going to address the comment/question. So it's from Wanda, and she says, can I ask why an OCC shoebox was distributed in this country to someone who doesn't appear to be in need of the items in it or the gospel message that they carry? I'm not disagreeing with the message of this video. It just made me wonder if these boxes were distributed by OCC. Okay, so the first part of that, can I ask why an OCC shoebox was distributed in this country, the country of Colombia, to someone who doesn't appear to be in need of the items in it or the gospel message that they carry? And I would say the fact that this person responded so strongly against or had such a strong reaction is just one more reason that shows that this person does need the gospel. They might not have been open to hearing it that day, but I think this shoebox went to exactly the person that needed it, because that particular mom and son definitely need to know who Jesus is. They need to know Jesus' love. They need to know that the most important thing is that Jesus loves them. And so I think we did a great thing by giving them the box. Unfortunately, in this particular instance, because of one thing in the box, it wasn't received as we had hoped that it would be received. But I will say, it's an interesting comment. Who doesn't appear to be in need of the items. First off, remember that OCC, Operation Christmas Child, is not a form of aid. The goal of OCC is not to give items for refuge or to help for a need. It is to be a gift of God's love. That is the purpose of OCC. Now, yes, they have things in them that children need, like school supplies, hygiene items, things like that. So yes, the boxes tend to include some needs, but remember that that's not the purpose. It is not used as an aid in a country. That's not the purpose of OCC. Or the gospel message that they carry. And again, somebody even mentioned in one of the comments, it's possible that this lady was having a horrible day, that it didn't even have anything to do with me. This particular family is exactly the family that needs God's love, that needs to know that Jesus loves them every moment of every day. It just made me wonder if the boxes were distributed by OCC. So that's a second issue. But it was a great question that was asked, and I'm really glad, because it is important to us that we are very conscientious and very cautious to follow and abide by all of the rules and regulations that Samaritan's Purse Operation Christmas Child puts out for us. So as churches, foundations, schools, organizations, we apply for OCC shoeboxes. They are not given out or distributed specifically by Operation Christmas Child. Operation Christmas Child partners with the local church or with local organizations, and the local organizations or churches are the ones that hand out the shoeboxes. So they are not given out by OCC. OCC partners with local churches to hand them out to the kids. Our church in particular was approved for 200 shoeboxes this year. Of these shoeboxes, one of them was given to a little boy, as was mentioned in that story. And we followed every protocol laid out by Samaritan's Purse when we gave out that shoebox. We were trained in multiple trainings to know how to distribute the shoeboxes correctly. Some of them were distributed at huge evangelism events, some of them in small groups, and some of them one-on-one, personally. But no matter what the group size that these shoeboxes were distributed, we followed the rules and regulations and the order that Operation Christmas Child wants us to do it. Which means, prior to giving out the shoebox, that little boy heard the gospel. He heard that Jesus loves him. He heard the story as laid out in the manual by Operation Christmas Child. So that was the first thing. The child heard the gospel, and that is of the utmost importance, because these shoeboxes aren't just gifts. They are evangelistic opportunities. That's what OCC calls them. It was a chance that that child and his mom heard the message of the gospel. And that is the best thing that could have happened that day. We also invited them to future discipleship classes. We gave them little invitations. We made sure they knew about what was coming up. We also gave them the greatest gift booklet, which tells the story of who Jesus is. So prior to ever giving them their shoebox, they got those 3 things. Invitations to future classes, they heard the gospel, and they got the greatest gift booklet. Those are kind of the basic things that are laid out when you hand out shoeboxes. And we abided by all of those steps as OCC lays out. So yeah, the first thing to share is that yes, the shoebox was distributed correctly. And the other thing is, no, we never know how the gospel message is going to be received. But does that mean that any child is less worthy of hearing the gospel? No. Oftentimes in the Bible, it talks about how we sow the seeds, but we never know when the harvest is going to be reaped. So that day, a seed was sown. The child heard the gospel. The mother heard the gospel. And yeah, we didn't get to see the harvest of that seed being sown, but at some point, God is going to use that in their hearts and lives. That is the prayer of our heart and our hope. And the reason why we do OCC is to be able to share the gospel with kids and their families. And so when the question is asked, why was it given to someone who doesn't seem to be in need of the items or the gospel message? No, they are. They are in need of the gospel message. Maybe they didn't receive it at that moment, but that doesn't mean that it fell on deaf ears. That doesn't mean that God isn't going to use that for his glory at some point in their life. So you know what? The shoebox made an impact. We may not see it right now. It may not have all played out how we had planned because, yeah, it was kind of a bummer reaction that she had to one item. But at the same time, we were faithful. We used the shoebox as it was meant to be used. And at the end of the day, both of them heard the gospel and received the booklet of the gospel, the greatest gift. And hopefully God continues to use that in their hearts. So I can guarantee that all the steps that OCC requires were followed when the shoebox was given out. And unfortunately, like I said, the interaction was not what we had hoped for. But that doesn't mean that that shoebox shouldn't have been given. That doesn't mean that it wasn't worth it to give that shoebox. And yes, again, it was given out per OCC's instructions and policies and all of that. So hopefully that gives an answer to both questions, that yes, it was given out well. We do need to give it out even when it feels like the gospel isn't heard. And no, shoeboxes are not explicitly distributed by OCC. They're distributed by churches who partner with OCC, if that makes sense. So if you have any other questions, let me know down below, and let me know if you have any thoughts on that particular question. So thank you guys, and we love you, and it's so fun to continue these discussions and continue having conversations. Love you, and we'll see you on the next one.